Hey, welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. Hope everything's well. Hope you're doing well today. And I need to take hide the intro so you can see me. How you doing, everyone? Anyway, today I want to talk about natural occurring retros. I did write in the top that says like sprint review, but it was actually sprint planning that the retro occurred, and I'm going to talk about that um, as far as my experience yesterday of a naturally occurring retro that happened during sprint planning or at the end of sprint planning. We'll talk about that today. And today is 5 a.m. Master Scrum Show. Bubbles over here just chilling out, relaxing. And this 5 a.m. Master Scrum Show where we try to help you with Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way. So bring more value to your customers, not work so hard to bring that value to your customers, and have a little fun along the way. And yesterday, didn't do a show. I had to travel an hour and a half to visit my client, and we did sprint planning. The manager's out, or Scrum Master, however you want to call him, / product owner. And I covered for them while they're gone. And during the sprint planning session, we went through all the epics and the stories, and we talked about it, what was there, kind of talked to everything, made sure they had everything want to do, how they want to introduce stuff, what's coming in, what's not. Looked at previous performance as far as velocity goes. Where should we stay at when we select the stories we wanted to work on and everything. So we went through that conversation, got down to the end, how many issues they had in their bucket for the sprint. And then, it was nice because they did it, but then we talked about how do we get better at this job, or how do we make it we get more completed? Because I shared some data, and this is a thing that a Scrum Master can do. I shared the data. I shared where they were, what their goals were, what they're achieving. They're getting their velocity. They're hitting their velocity. However, the problem is it's not the work they originally set out to do because a lot of work's coming in. And then it created discussion. We just talked about everything from the length of the sprint. Do we point stories, refinement sessions? How do we have discussions? Do we group stuff? Do we need to break stuff down? And it was really interesting discussion. Now, typically, a manager or somebody or a Scrum Master or whatever might try to shut that conversation down because we're getting out of the sprint planning aspect of it. But here's the thing. We were supposed to do a retrospective the day before. However, half the team was doing a release, so they were out. So it didn't make sense to do a retro with half the team not there. And I want to express this. You can do this. It's okay. Just make sure you have a retro. And what I found interesting, just observing the situation, what was going on, is that the team naturally started getting into a retro, right? And I'm just laughing. I'm just smiling because they don't realize, like, we really should do retros. And I kind of wanted to say, well, you're doing one now, right? Really, you are really doing a retro. You're having a discussion on what you would like to do. How can you produce better? How can you make it easier on yourself, get more stuff done, get into the new stuff that they wanted to do? Not worry about carryover and a lot of things going on with this team. So it was a very interesting discussion how they naturally became a retro. And my job as facilitator was to make sure everyone got a chance to talk, bring up their items, because I had a couple people in the room. One were like not looking at everyone else in the room, kind of looking at me. And I noticed someone in the back had their hands raised. And that's one of the nice things about being in person. You could see hands raised. You can't do that when you're not there. And I made sure we called on. I said, hey, so-and-so, what do you want to add to the discussion? What would you like to add? And they went and added their stuff. So I make sure everyone is included as a facilitator. Make sure anybody looks like they want to add something to talk about it. And I made it kind of an open forum, created a little mini retro, let's say. We didn't come up with any action items we wanted because it wasn't the official retro. Not every, it wasn't organized to do that. But we came up with what topics did we want to talk about at the next retro, because I did say that we did schedule or reschedule the retro for the following Tuesday so that we can all get together and be available for that, because all our releases should be done, and hopefully we'll be at a good spot that no one's busy and the whole team's available to have this retro and this discussion. And people brought up how we don't do this and we don't do that. I'm like, you know what? I agree totally with you. I said, I think me personally, reducing the sprint, the time boxes sprint, love it. You know, pointing stuff. Some people would like it and not like it. I think I like it. I think they need to experiment on some stuff because they're doing a lot of zigzagging because they're counting issues. Not everything applies everything. That's a good legitimate discussion. You know, it doesn't apply. Everyone does things different. So you have that discussion in the retro. How do you shape that up? Or if we are going to cover that, let's pick one of those many topics they want to try and give it a shot, right? There were things about having too many things in the work. Like one group does one thing because they're quasi working together team. They're not 100% all in the same stuff, good or bad, right? It is what it is. Some people have a different specialized work they have to do, and other people have a different specialized work they have to do, and they have to maintain and support that activity. I think it's good to have the diverse thing so other people see what everyone is doing, because sooner or later they all cross, right? Sooner or later, one group wants to do one thing. They need the other group to finish what they want to do, or vice versa. Hey, they're doing one thing. Maybe they need database work. Maybe they need reporting, and it goes across both sides of the fences, let's say, or what their main tasks are. But one of the things I just want to remind Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, sometimes you just got to let the natural retro occur. Don't shut it down. Let them talk it out. Come up with an exit strategy, right? Okay, so I started writing down a little notepad because half the group's on Zoom and the other half group was in the room, right? What we were capturing, and at the end, and they're all like, okay, Greg, and they're like, funny, Greg, where are you going to post that? Is this going to be a notepad? No, I put it up in their Slack channel so everyone had that so they could see it, just to document it in public. So we had that for the next retro. So it was really a good discussion. I was pleasant. People might think, oh, Greg doesn't like, no, I love it, man. I'm like, let's do this. This is great. But also gave an avenue. So here's some topics you all want to discuss. I had an original plan for the retro, which I don't think we're going to be doing now. I'll save it for a future date when we get to where we wanted to go through. But I'll just save it. I don't have to do it. I'm flexible enough. Yes, I did the retro. That was the plan based on what our previous discussion is. But the discussion we had yesterday, they changed the plan. So I'll just craft a discussion, a way of having that discussion at our next retro, which will be Tuesday, which will be in the middle of the sprint. But that's okay, because maybe we need to discuss something we need to do that we want to implement in the following sprint, right? Talk it out, really think about it. How do we want to do it? How do we want to introduce this? How do we want to introduce, let's say we go from a 3-week sprint to a 2-week sprint. How do we want to introduce that to the business client? Like, hey, we want this to go out. This is what our plans are. We're trying to get it where we don't have people dropping stuff into the sprint. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go or what they're going to work on, but those are the kind of things that when it comes out of the sprint, us as Agile coaches and Scrum Masters, when we talk about that retro, okay, let's say it is time box as an example, or anything. How do you want to promote that decision to your stakeholders, right? You had your retro. You should take what's in there for stakeholders. One create some issues in the sprint to get it done, because they kind of, it was interesting. I'll talk about that another day, but put that in there, some actions, implement stuff, who's going to implement it, and then how are you going to tell your stakeholders? How are you going to share with the management? How are you going to share with all those people that are out there? And then they go do that. So I wanted to share that with you because it does happen. The natural occurring retrospectives happen sometimes, and the real good key skill set is not to shut it down. Let them talk it out and exit with, how do we want to address it? Do we want to address it at our next retro? Do we want to set up a meeting event? Do we just kind of really dive deep into it and really come up with what's our strategy and implementation plan for the kind of natural retro that just came out? Because they're not going to want to do the implementation at that point. They might, if they have the time and they feel like they want to do it. But I think there was I felt it, where they wanted to really wait until we had a full retro, wait for the manager or the Scrum Master to come back so he can participate in it and everything like that, which is fine with me, right? But I want to make sure they all saw it, let them have their expressions. their topics, what they want to do. Maybe it'll get them more encouraged to really address it in the next retro. So sometimes you can shape it. Sometimes you have an agenda for the retros. Sometimes a natural occurring retro occurs, which will then change your retro that you're going to have as a result. So with that, I want to wish you all a great day. Happy scrumming. Be flexible. Things sometimes occur naturally, and you got to adjust priorities. You got to adjust the retro requirements, all kinds of things. There'll be a lot of things that may come up. There was a lot of things came up, so we'll see how they go about doing their future activities. So we'll see. With that, I wish you the best. Have a great day. Happy scrumming, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye, everyone.